What's up, guys? Ricky here. Do you love Most Valuable Podcasts? And are you like myself where things that you like, you just have to let people know because they've got to be on your t-shirt at all times? If you do, you're in luck because we got Most Valuable Podcast t-shirts. You've probably seen myself, Dave, Mark, Sean, Brandon. You might have seen us wearing these t-shirts in videos. The good thing is now you can get your hands on one too. How do you do so? First off, send us an email, mostvaluablepodcast@gmail.com. Give us your name, your size, your address. We will then send you an invoice through Square. That's how you'll pay for it, $22 per shirt. And then after we get the money, we will send you a great Most Valuable Podcast t-shirt for you to wear so you can tell everybody that you love listening to Most Valuable Podcast. So go check it out. The directions are also in the description. What are you waiting for? We got the shirts just for you.
But anyways, we're going to move on now and we're going to talk about Paul George and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Right now, this marriage has not been working out. And of course, Colin Cowherd recently just compared it to his divorce, saying that Sam Presti needs to realize that the time is over and that they should separate after 25 games where the Oklahoma City have put themselves into the 8th spot in the playoffs where they are 13-14 currently. But you look at it, obviously the contract situation is pressing because Paul George is going to be a free agent after this year. They did not re-sign him yet to an extension. So looking at it right now, it hasn't been a great matchup between Westbrook, Paul George, and Carmelo Anthony, getting rid of Enes Kanter, getting rid of Victor Oladipo, getting rid of these guys who are having success.
Sabonis.
Yeah, Sabonis, getting rid of these players that are having success in New York and in Indiana. So far, the question we're asking is, should the Thunder trade Paul George?
Honestly, it kind of feels like a cheap, it's not working for us right now. We might as well try to get some value back because, look, if you're not winning with this lineup as it is, you're not going to be able to convince him to come back for a long-term contract. And that's just, you got to be realistic, OKC. I feel bad for saying it, but now is too early. I agree. I think 25 games is too early. I think by the time you hit, 40, 45 games, you will have a cement idea of what this team can and can't do. And honestly, when I looked at the team, I was like, it should be a good fit. We'll get Olympic Carmelo Anthony. He'll be a spot shooter. He'll be having fun. And then Paul George, great two-way player. He's got a good shot, very good catch and shoot player again. But this offense has just stumbled out the gates, and they have no continuity. And it's not Paul George's fault per se, but he is having a down year as well. And I think that it's just all around his fit in OKC, not going to work out long term.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at Melo. Melo can't be traded, really. I mean, he's got extensive contract work.
NTC, baby.
Yeah, you look at the way that he's even playing right now. What is he really worth? I mean, so far he's having one of his worst shooting at least performances of his career so far. So it really hasn't been a nice workout so far. With Carmelo, hasn't really worked out with Paul George so far. It's the last 4 games. He's had 19 field goals and 20 turnovers. And you look at Westbrook. Westbrook has some nice stats, but if you actually look into it, Westbrook's not playing well.
So if you watch him play, you know something's wrong.
He doesn't move.
Doesn't move.
He doesn't move. He doesn't move.
Is that how you run offense?
I think no, it doesn't. I think the problem that we got to talk about first is Russell Westbrook. And
the elephant in the room here.
Yeah, you can talk about the ringer and saying the Thunder have a Russell Westbrook problem, but it's true. Yeah. I mean, right now, I feel like, again, on paper, it should all work. Paul George, Carmelo Anthony, Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook is a great distributor when he has the ball in his hands, when he's trying to create, and you have 2 great shooters in Paul George and Carmelo Anthony that are much more than just shooters. These are guys that are high-level scorers, guys that could possibly be putting up 28 points on their own team, have done it before. So I look at it and I just see that, I think all of this stems around Billy Donovan and it stems around Russell Westbrook, the 2 guys that have been there so far. I'm not going to blame this on Sam Presti because right now you look at the move. We all thought it worked on paper. We all thought it was a great move. We look at the reaction that we had on the fast break when Ricky was here, and I think it was just you two when the trade actually happened. I wasn't here because I was either at Pitchfork or Riot Fest, but the whole thing was that this team is now going to be a fourth team in the Western Conference behind the Spurs.
They have
Warriors,
the firepower. They have the all-stars. They have the individual talent.
So the move wasn't bad, but now it's just looking bad, and I think it's looking bad because there's a lack of movement on that offense. There's not space for them to get open. It's just not gelling so far. So at least looking at the 25 games that you've seen so far, do you feel like there's the opportunity for them to gel? Not, again, take away the fact that they're all great players in their own right. Do you feel like there's the opportunity for them to gel, or do you feel like with all the, at least, egos that are there. Carmelo has an ego.
Yeah.
Russ has an ego. George has an ego. Not a bad thing. Star players have egos.
It is, yeah.
Do you feel like it's going to be a detriment and something that they cannot come over?
I think this is honestly on what will go through Russ Westbrook's head. He is the linchpin of this offense, and it's honestly like Billy Donovan. Like, if you can't get through to him, this is now multiple superstars who do not work well with him, which means he is the problem. Like, it's no longer like him and KD, just had some situations where they felt like each other would play differently, so whatever, fine. But now you bring in Carmelo and Paul George, and you're seeing the same sort of shit out of Westbrook. When the ball's not in his hand, he has no effort. He has no want to do anything. He feels like, mission accomplished. I passed the ball.
I think
now it's on you to finish.
Yeah, I think the stat was he set one screen so far, or one screen for Carmelo Anthony to get open.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
unless he's engaged, unless he becomes magically a team player, which almost is a joke, because last year I was defending him. I'm like, this is a guy on a team with one talented player in Steven Adams, and he is dragging this team to the playoffs on his own. He's getting 10 assists a night with guys who can't shoot the ball, and it was just all this stuff. And now I'm starting to look back, and I'm like, man, maybe that's just who he is.
Well, and looking at that, talking about the players that were on his team last year, Victor Oladipo is absolutely unreal right now out in Indy. You look at Enes Kanter, him with KP has been unreal so far as well. Sabonis is looking real nice. I mean, looking at all the players having success outside of OKC, do you feel like that is kind of hurting the situation in OKC right now? Because you look back and you're like, well, again, is it more on Russ, or is it just the fact that these are 3-star players still trying to gel?
No, it's the system or Russ. I don't know necessarily if I want to blame one over the other right now, but the problem is the system. It's the problem with, like, you have these talented pieces, but square peg round hole, like, it just doesn't work the way you've got it. You have to make adjustments. And you're right. The way Oladipo is playing out the gates, looking like an all-star, I mean, he just is incredible right now and makes Orlando look like a joke, makes OKC look like they were misusing him as a talent. And Sabonis has improved efficiency-wise. He's doing things out there. He's getting way more minutes. He looks great. And like you said, Kanter with KP has been a great pairing. So honestly, I think it's just you put the guys in the right situation to succeed. OKC is failing at that core basic level, and they're not going to win games consistently. They're winning games because they have so much more talent than other players where just by a roll of the dice, you're going to outperform them some nights. Yeah, great. But consistently, are they going to do that? No. Can they do that against top teams for more than 2 games at a time? I haven't seen it yet. I'll be impressed if they do.
And one thing, too, we saw Russ drag this team to the playoffs last year. We see the talent on this team. They're currently in a playoff spot. Obviously, you don't want to lose Paul George for nothing. You traded Oladipo, you traded Sabonis, 2 guys that have high powers, and if you're going to be an 8th seed going up against the Rockets or Warriors, or you're going to be a 7th seed going up against the Rockets or Warriors, your playoffs are ending early. Yeah. So looking at it, what point do you feel like is kind of the tipping point of, all right, we're going to trade Paul George, or we're going to explore trading Paul George, and all right, we're going to hold it and we're going to run for the playoffs? Do you feel like there's a certain point, a certain plateau or benchmark this team needs to reach for them to either go all in on trading Paul George or at least pulling back on the trade thoughts?
I honestly think if they hit like 25 losses before, I don't know, I feel like 25 loss, 30 loss, that's the mark. Like if they get to that range, like fairly soon, I'm freaking out if I'm OKC. I'm hitting the panic button. I'm like, okay, this shit doesn't work. Let's get value. We have Russ on a long-term contract. Mel's going to agree because he's going to take his offer because that's just too much money to pass up on. So you might as well move Paul George, get something back, whether it's the value of people who are throwing out the Brooklyn pick from the Cavs as an option. Seems very lucrative because Brooklyn's been hurt all the time right now this season, so they could be, a fairly good lottery pick. Value out there is going to be kind of bouncing because there are a lot of names who are being tossed out there in this trade deadline as it comes up.
Before we get to the value, do you feel like he will be traded? Yes or no?
Yeah, I just feel like they've been burned once. I think they realistically have zero belief that they will be able to re-sign him. This was a 1 year. If we can prove it to him that we can go, he'll resign. Like, we can do this together.
I feel like, you look back at it and you're like, holy crap, you got Serge Ibaka for Paul George. Like, on the baseline, that's crazy. But you see all the talent that's come in and out between that, from that Serge Ibaka and Victor Oladipo.
Well, it's the talent that's performing elsewhere. That's the problem. It's when you brought these guys in, you got what, and then
And then the fact that if you're going to lose Serge Ibaka, Victor Oladipo, Sabonis, Paul George, and the fact that KD left, I feel like you're right. If they're going to get to a certain plateau and they hit that certain plateau, I feel if you're near the trade deadline and you're not above the 4th seed, Paul George isn't staying on this team. He's getting traded. I think looking at that and taking that all in, it's really about what his value is going to be, because he's going to be an expiring contract. You're getting him for 2 months. It's not going to be crazy. I mean, people talk about the Brooklyn pick, but then again, they're going to be in the kind of panic situation of we need to move him. We saw that last year with Boogie, and Boogie still had time on his contract, and they fucked that up. They apparently passed down a better deal. I mean, like, looking at all of this, I mean, Sam Presti isn't Vlade Divac. He's a very capable GM.
Yes.
But do you feel like his value is going to be diminished, Paul George, that is, because of the current contract situation that he's in, the fact that he's not going to truly re-sign anywhere, or possibly the option is out there that he might not re-sign with the team.
Right.
Do you feel like the Cavs would be like, okay, Paul George is going to help us this much that we're going to give up the possible future, especially with LeBron James possibly leaving?
It screams Cavs move to me, to be honest with
Really?
you. Yeah, because this is it. They're all inning LeBron James. Like, look, we brought you your best friend in Dwayne Wade. We're going to have Isaiah Thomas is going to be healthy. If Derrick Rose decides to play basketball again, you're going to have a stacked team. And if you can go ahead and drop that Brooklyn pick to bring in either Paul George or a player like maybe DeAndre Jordan, adding one of the biggest names during this trade talks, like, that cements, like, LeBron gets what he wants, period. And if you can have one of those guys play with LeBron, we've seen it happen. Guys like to play with him. Guys will take cuts to play with him. So I think that, like, he's a guy. Paul George was someone who LeBron recruited during the summer, illegally, whatever, tampering rules be gone. But, like, they have talked numerous times. So I wouldn't be surprised if, like, Cavs are like, let's go out, get Paul George. We're gonna go ahead. We're gonna go for the championship this year. And if we get a championship this year, LeBron's gonna stay. We can get Paul George to stay on a deal. Maybe even Isaiah Thomas. Like, we can really turn this into another continuing situation. Like, keep building on that.
So you feel like if you get Paul George, it's a for sure that LeBron will stay?
I think that it's Paul George
means
if they make high percentage championship, which means if they win I think they need to win the championship for him to stay.
Okay.
To be honest, like, that's, and right or wrong, that's just where I'm at right now. Like, he has carried this team back out of the dregs, like, to start the season, LeBron.
Yeah.
So I feel he's invested in winning. They've got a team, again, another team on paper, but because Isaiah's been out, Derek's been out, like, we haven't seen them fully perform. So if you add Paul George to that roster, there's no way they can't compete against the Warriors for a championship. Like, those by far are the two best rosters in the NBA.
No one's doubting that, but at least going back to the value, I mean, do you feel like his value is for sure a lottery pick where you're throwing away possibly your future if LeBron doesn't stay? I mean,
how all in are you on LeBron James?
And the whole thing, at least with that, is, I mean, not only speaking to the Cavs, but again, he's a 2-month rental. It's not a for sure given that he's going to be staying around. What is his value? Do you feel like it's going to be driven up just due to the fact that it's Paul George and people are going to want him?
No, I don't. I think the knee-jerk reaction is the Cavs. They're the ones who will overpay, if anyone. Everybody else, I think, like you said, it's an interesting market for Paul George because, well, he is an extremely talented player. It's a 2-month deal. You're getting him for a playoff push. And how many teams realistically are going for a playoff push? We mentioned earlier, maybe the Rockets do something crazy. Maybe they toss their name in the ring for that. I don't know what kind of deal it would take, but I could see them being involved. The problem is, like, the East, like, realistically, who's going to toss in an offer? No, the Bucks need a center. They don't need another guard out there or a wing even.
Boston doesn't need a wing.
Boston doesn't need a wing.
Jaylen Brown, you got Gordon Hayward coming back, you got Jason Tatum.
And to be fair, like, anything beyond that, Otto Porter is doing fine for the Wizards. They don't need, I mean, depth, whatever. If they bump something, then it doesn't make sense.
I mean, you can go super small ball.
Yeah. Otherwise,
Paul George at the 4.
Toronto is the only other team. Like, beyond that, I'm not even discussing the East because nobody beyond that matters. No one's going to compete.
I mean, I want to bring them up, 76ers.
Fuck you.
I mean, well, fuck me, but, like, I mean, looking at it, I mean, they have high draft picks.
Yes, they do.
I mean, they could possibly entice him.
Yes.
And if they can keep Paul George, I mean, you bring in that, you have Ben Simmons, Paul George.
Rocco.
You have
Christ.
Joel Embiid. You have Markelle Fultz. It's a pretty decent team right there. Yeah. And I know that might not beat the Cavs in your first year in the playoffs. It's a pretty damn good team. Okay, and you have the picks. Yeah. And the whole point of the process is to take these picks and turn them into something.
Well, that's the question. What would OKC want for Paul George? Would they want picks, or would they want someone who might better fit a system that benefits Russell Westbrook?
And that was something I was going to bring up too, because maybe even Paul George leaving kind of clears a logjam and lets Russ score a little bit more, be more of Russ.
Well, that's a fun thing. Like, Paul George is shooting 40% right now.
Paul George is playing bad right now.
Yeah. Well, he's not playing great, but he's not. Yeah.
But still, I mean, you look at Paul. Like, he's not playing to his money right now. But you wouldn't call Paul George a bad NBA player.
No.
I mean, right now he's still having an okay season for like a decent player.
Yeah.
And we know he started off slow last year and he picked it up near the end.
Yeah.
My thing is just the fact that I feel like his value is going to be taken down. I feel like people won't take that risk because he's only going to be there for 2 months. You don't know exactly where he's going to be. He's heavily tied to LA because he's from there. I just feel like people, he has the value, at least talent-wise, but I feel like people are going to not really go for him, not really bite on him. And I feel like OKC's kind of iffy on trading him. So the fact that if they're not going to get the value they want, they can pull back. And that value might be picks just so they can, at least, move those picks for possibly players that do fit their system and multiple players to fit that system because, Melo is aging and you're going to have him next year.
Yeah.
But if you can add more players that are talented around them, add more shooting.
They get some salary room too.
Yeah, I feel like that might at least clear stuff up and might at least say, hey, we have 2 talented guys here. Let's just add depth around this team because it's not a deep team.
Yeah.
In OKC, I feel like the value that they'll want is picks so they can clear up cap space and they can clear up room and build a deeper team. I feel like that would probably be Sam Presti's move because he tried the whole 3 stars. It's not working so far. And if they're at the point where they want to trade Paul George, they're going to trade him and they're going to go away from the 3-star mentality because 2 stars worked for him before, KD and Russell Westbrook. I know they didn't win a championship, but they still had some success, clearly.
Yeah. They also had Harden off the bench.
But then even
without he wasn't Harden at the time.
No,
really.
but I'm saying even like before KD left. I mean, they still made it to the Western Conference Finals and took the Warriors to 7 games. But you still need that depth on that team. And I feel like it's going to end up being that Paul George doesn't get traded. They're not going to get the value that they want, and they're going to let him walk for nothing. And I feel like people are going to be like, all right, this was a terrible move, but it's kind of an understandable move because you're not going to pass up on getting
a chance at Paul George. The problem is
and Russell Westbrook.
At what point is it then Billy Donovan's problem? At what point is it then Russell Westbrook's problem?
I think it's right now. I think it's right now that it's a Billy Donovan problem. I think it's a Russell Westbrook problem. And if Billy Donovan can't make it work, then he's definitely
we've been going
in the
after
hot
coaches early this season, to be honest. So is he a guy who, like, if he can't take these 3 superstars stapled together to, out of the first round of the playoffs, is it just no?
I am pretty sure when we first ranked coaches, you guys had Billy Donovan pretty high, and I said that he was overrated.
Fairly high. I want to say like teens.
I think I had him the lowest. I think I said that he was overrated. Maybe I'm completely wrong on that. If anyone wants to go
Feels
fact
like
check,
it now, though.
Definitely go fact check. But again, it's something where we saw Scotty Brooks.
Yeah.
Basic coach. Billy Donovan, basic coach. They can succeed because you have talent on that team. And right now, Billy Donovan's not even succeeding. He succeeded in spite of Russell Westbrook last year. They made it to the playoffs, but it wasn't like, the team was great. Yeah. And it was really just nothing, Billy Donovan was doing. It's just because Russell Westbrook had an unreal, unprecedented season.
Yeah.
I feel like if they're not able to make it work, they're not able to trade Paul George. I think Presti might have some heat. I don't think really he deserves it because, again, you're not going to pass up getting those 3. And it's really not your fault that Russell Westbrook's not playing the way that he should be. Well, you already signed him to a long-term deal. People of OKC love him. He's still a fantastic basketball player. But I feel like it's going to be more on the coach. And I feel like it's going to be a lot of pressure on Billy Donovan. I think Russ's seat's going to get warm to be like, all right, you have to step up your game, and not just in the fact that you got to stuff the stat sheet. You also have to.
You have to
be
play
a
in a system that actually does things for your team and wins games instead of being selfish.
Final thoughts on Paul George.
Thoughts. I sort of want to see him in like Cleveland or in Toronto.
I don't want to see him in Cleveland at all.
I think it makes the NBA Finals more interesting. That's all.
I'd like to see him in Houston. You brought it up.
Houston,
I'd like to see him in Houston. Yeah. You imagine that.
They're a wild card.
Chris Paul, James Harden, Paul George, Ryan Anderson, Clint Capella. Pretty damn good starting 5 right there. And then Eric Gordon coming off the bench. I was going to say Aaron Gordon. Could you imagine Aaron Gordon coming off the bench? Insane team. Let us know where you think Paul George is going to end up at the trade deadline, if he's going to stay in OKC at the end of the year, if he's going to be on a different team, where that team's going to be. And also, if you want to throw out where you think he's going to end up in free agency, also throw that down in the comments down below.